Welcome.
All right. No welcome. What's up, Mateen? How's it going, man?
Hey man, how's it going?
It's good. It's good.
I
Thanks.
love your art room.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's paintings and stuff. Yeah.
Very
I
good.
uh I wanted to say thanks for putting the time to do this.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Definitely gonna be a nice conversation. So we'll just jump straight to it.
Let's
Tell
do
me
it.
what's your favorite movie and why do you like it?
Well, my favorite movie is The Dark Knight, and
Okay.
yeah, as someone who loves movies, it's a very well-made movie.
Hmm.
Also, the story is, it never gets old. It's always unfolding. Something else is always coming. I've watched it a few times in the theaters, and I have it downloaded on my computer.
That's cool. I've
Yeah,
watched Dark Knight like maybe five times, six times. It's a good movie for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
That's
No, I really enjoy that movie.
like
I wouldn't say favorite, but another movie that I really liked was The Schindler's List.
okay.
Um, yeah,
You
I thought,
recommend that? I haven't watched it.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's a very heavy movie. It's the story of Holocaust, of everything that happened during the Holocaust, but it's very visual. Everything is there. You see everything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is pretty dark.
it is very dark. Yeah, it's very nice though. It's a very well-made movie. It tells the story really well.
I heard a lot about it. All right, I'll take a look at that. But definitely Dark Knight is one of those movies that's really interesting. The story, the plot, the acting, everything is on point.
Yeah, it's something that I never got tired of watching.
Hmm.
Like other movies I enjoyed, but The Dark Knight, I don't know, it just resonated with me to a very personal level, I guess.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. So what about a good book recommendation? Do you have any good book recommendations?
Yes. Again, a book that I talked about a lot, The Art of War by Sun Tzu.
Hmm.
Yeah. He wrote a lot about how to win a fight, different aspects of the fight, from the beginning stages of planning it to the end stage where you send spies into the enemy. But it doesn't only just talk about war, it talks about strategy and like how you can navigate through your life and strategize everything that you do.
Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
Art of War. I've heard a lot about. I haven't really gotten to reading the book. It's a big book, right? It's
Yeah.
very lengthy. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it talks all about, like you said, right? Strategy, emotional intelligence, being diplomatic when it comes to communicating with your opponents, things like that, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it talks a lot about human connections, like how you can interact with someone, how you can uh, see what they're made of, basically, and then how you can deal with it, how you can read people and then act accordingly.
Cool. And you got through all the book, huh?
Yeah, yeah. I read the book itself, and then I read an analysis of the book as well by some.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So you went deep into that. Okay.
I really like the book. Yeah, it's one of the few books that I actually finished.
Well, yeah, that's another thing, by the way. People don't finish a lot of, like me, myself, I have books. I read maybe one fourth, then I jump to another book. Then I come back to the one I read and like I finish it later.
Yeah.
So it's good. Good for you for
I
finishing.
have another book lying around that I haven't finished, but yeah, it's one of the few books that I actually finished.
Okay. And you recommend it. Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
How do you deal like with your insecurities? That's the third question.
that's a deep transition.
Yeah, yeah, that's a
Yeah.
that's a pretty fast transition.
I usually face them head on. Um, if it's something small or if it's something big, I just try to, not hide it. Just face it head on. If I don't get a result from it, if I don't get something that I can, I guess build upon, then I'll just leave it at that. But I usually been pretty successful just facing everything head on and coming out the other side.
And do you write things down to recognize first of all what they are, acknowledge them? Like the thing is, sometimes you understand what they are, but you're faced with a block when you wanna actually face them, right?
Hmm.
You acknowledge it, but then you don't really know how to control it or how to face it. Have you like been in those kinds of situations?
Well, writing, yeah, I write a lot. There's a lot of writing that I do in my books, on my notes on my phone, on my computer. Um, as far as like writing my steps down, the process down, no, not really. I just try to get myself personally involved in it until it's done, until it's not a insecurity anymore. But about the whole thing, yeah, I might write about it maybe a week after, maybe a month after,
Hmm.
maybe not at all. It depends on, how I feel about that specific thing.
I see. Okay. And talking about writing and everything, so I came across this concept called the ikigai,
Yeah.
which is like a reason to be, right? And in different points in our lives, we have different ikigais. It doesn't have to be like one thing.
Mhm.
So do you have one? You know, what's your ikigai look like?
Well, it's funny you say that. You actually told me about the concept of ikigai. I started looking into it, and the thing is, it's not that easy to arrive at a very specific point when you're talking about an ikigai. But I have an expectation of myself,
Hmm.
and that would be my ikigai if I were to point at just one thing. That I know what my capabilities are. I know what I'm good at and what I'm not good at, and just building myself to a point that I can, live up to my own expectations. That's my ikigai.
I see.
Yeah,
Okay, that's okay. No, that's interesting. So living up to your own expectations,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So what I expect from myself, I don't really pay attention a lot to what people say about me or what people say to me. Not that I ignore them. I take if there's a constructive point in it. But everyone has opinions. Everyone expects people to behave a certain way because it works for them personally. But yeah, my ikigai would be what I expect me from myself, and then just living up to that.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
interesting because then you drown out all the other noises
yeah,
because you only focus on what you expect from yourself. Because other people, like you said, they have different perceptions, they have a different reality, then they project that. Most of the time, the feedback that they may give you is really based on their reality. I mean, it
mhm,
helps to look at it or think about it, but then at, at the end of the day, it's you and what you really expect of yourself that
that's
you
right.
focus on.
It also becomes a driving force for me. Um, so I guess back to insecurities again. When I think about something that I'm not really good at, it doesn't bother me as much as it gives me a push. It gives me builds up a momentum in me for me to just go out there and just start doing stuff, do more stuff. Just get myself involved in so many things that sometimes it becomes overwhelming. But I mean, at least I'm engaged with things that I wasn't usually engaged with.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting. Um, and I've seen that in you. You know, I've seen how when someone gives you feedback or
Hmm.
when you're thinking about something, and someone comes in to give their 2 cents. You know, sometimes you actually do listen, right? You take it in, you analyze it, but then at the end of the day, you do your own thing, right? Because you had this mental model about what you wanted to do in mind already, and you don't necessarily get seriously swayed by
Hmm.
other noises that are coming in. But I do have to say, it does help when you also take other people's feedback, seriously. But not everyone, right? The people that you trust,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk, even I take points from what you say about me, what you say about how I must do a certain thing, and then I take points from it. I take
Yes.
this is an observation that you made, and you obviously don't have an agenda against me, so there's something to be learned from what you say. I take it into consideration when I make a decision.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't have any agenda, I promise.
I appreciate that.
So okay, that's cool. And let's talk about relationships here. I got
Let's
a
do it.
question for you on, what are a few red flags for you when it comes to relationships? Now, this can really be an intimate one. It can be a friendship, or it can even be a business relationship.
Yeah.
We can talk about each of them separately. But what are some of the red flags that you would see or consider and say, okay, that's one there.
Yeah. Well, they all share a few things between them, and that's communications, right? If the other party is not really there, is not available, it's, part-time participation. There's not really a lot of communication coming back from that person or whoever that might be. If it's an intimate relationship, it's a partnership, friendship, whatever it is. And also just being present, being, available, just being a two-way relationship, basically. I've had just professional relationships with people that I did work for that, was not really uh, willing to participate in the work that was done. It was just, okay, do this and get out. And that is obviously a red flag. Yeah, as far as intimate relationships goes, like personal relationships, honesty and just being, people make mistakes too, yeah, right? If you own up to your mistake, if you accept what you did was wrong, that for me is not a red flag anymore. But like arrogance, that's a red flag because it could grow into something that is not really salvageable anymore. It just creates drama and wastes time.
Arrogance, huh?
Arrogance, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But yeah. As far as
So
friendships go,
basically, either half-ass relationships or um, relationships where the ego is involved a lot. You can't really get past that because arrogance, comes from the ego as well.
mhm.
Or yeah, what else? What else were you saying?
Yeah. So if the person's not really there, like, so that
Yeah.
if they don't really participate in the conversation, or if they don't accept that, okay, you did this and this hurt me this way, and they keep saying that, no, you're wrong. Well, that just creates conflict. That just creates friction, and that's not healthy in any relationship. Yeah, in a friendship, like a person-to-person relationship, again, honesty, just being open to communications to a certain degree. You don't have to share everything, but as long as we're talking, we're good.
I see.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
that's important. It takes two to tango, right? So you
yeah.
gotta be in relationships where it's not just like giving or receiving. It's both. You're giving and you're receiving at the same
hmm
time. What new skills are you trying to learn?
I have always wanted to learn programming. Right now, I'm
Are you
learning
doing it?
Swift. Huh?
Are you doing it though?
I am. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I've been working on Swift.
So
Yeah, I used to do a little bit of JavaScript back in high school, but it's not really a concept that I understood ever, right? It's not a language that I
JavaScript.
can, yeah, it's not a language that I could look at and I can say, okay, I understand this. But Swift is a more simplified form of programming, I guess. So I've had a lot easier time with it. I feel like in this day and age, being able to talk to a computer is more important than being able to talk to a person, really.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, you need to learn how to communicate with the computer if you want to do things that are more
Yeah.
advanced, right? Or do some more advanced, basically programming. You want to build things, right? You
Yeah.
do it through a computer. So for those who don't know, what is Swift?
Swift is a very simplified language that you can make apps with on the Apple ecosystem.
I see.
Um, it runs through Xcode, that's only available on Macs. But again, it's a very simplified system that you can just learn the functions and learn the commands and learn, the ifs and buts and whatnot, and
Yeah.
just go from there. It's
Okay,
very
cool.
visual too. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to code with Swift a bit back in university and actually with Xcode because that
Mhm.
was the platform on which you would program. It is good when it comes to building apps, especially like you said for Apple.
Yeah.
And no, that's interesting. It's a good skill to learn for sure. I always wanted to dive deeper into programming, but then I realized it's better if I understand the code rather than know how to code
Mhm.
because I don't want to be that much of a technical person anyways. But that's good. That's good. Definitely being able to
Yeah.
communicate with the computer.
Yeah, no, the reason I'm trying to learn it is because as you know, I have a lot of ideas that, if I have the knowledge, I can implement and I can just make something out of the idea. So it's not at the idea stage anymore. But to pay someone else to write an app for me just to try it out is, not really sustainable at this point. To pay $10,000 for someone to just write an app to see how it looks like, and cool.
Yeah, and this works. And with all the ideas that you have, yeah, definitely. Because like you said, you have a lot of ideas,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't always ask someone to code those for you.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, you also want to focus on your own strengths. So
Mm-hmm.
see how much effort you're putting into this. If you actually learn really fast, then that's good. But if it's going to take you like 25 years to become a very good Swift code expert, then,
Yeah, by the time you get there, the industry's 5 levels ahead of you.
yeah, you don't need iPhone apps anymore.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right, so next one is, what is your biggest fear?
It's not one fear. Obviously, as a person, I can't just point out, okay, this specific thing is my fear, but I guess losing something that is good to me, either it's a relationship or a job or even an object, a car, a computer, whatever. Losing something that is good to me is always at the back of my mind. Okay, that if I lose this, something bad is going to happen. That triggers a chain of events inside my head also. Yeah. Again, not living up to my the ikigai, living up to my own expectations. That's a fear, but it's not a fear that I'm terrified of. It's a fear that creates a drive in me, it just makes it into a push. But yeah.
Okay, so do you have a lot of fears in general, or are you living your life?
Not
Because
really, man. I'm pretty
your
chill.
life is not fear driven, is it?
No, not at all.
Okay, interesting. So losing something that's valuable or someone that's valuable to you, or not living up to that, expectation that you set for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And if you could have, dinner, if you could sit down and have lunch or dinner with someone dead or alive, who would it be, and what would you guys talk about?
All these questions, I'm not going to give one answer. Okay, so
Okay, sure.
just get ready for that. Two people that I really would like to sit down and talk to. Jeff Bezos is one of them. He's a very interesting businessman. He took a very simple idea and made it into a huge business. It's made him the richest person in the world. Not only that, his business is expanding to everything we do today. Everyone orders something from Amazon. Beside that, everyone shops at Whole Foods. People go to the Amazon Web Services to do their, whatever they need to do on Amazon Web Services, to offer a ton of different services there, for web optimization to SEO to that kind of thing. And
So
also,
what would you ask him? What would you sit down and talk about?
just
Because he's the richest guy in the world, man. He wouldn't sit down like for 5 hours with you, right? So you have like 30 minutes or 1 hour.
bro, the guy's the richest person in the world. He can do whatever he wants. don't tell him what to do. But yeah, no, I would just talk to him. I would talk to him about how he ask him about how he managed to believe in himself when everyone else was, looking down on his business model, to start selling books to get recognition back in 1997. I mean, the internet was nothing back then. And this guy had an idea that, okay, if we start selling something that everyone wants, then we can upgrade into selling stuff that everyone needs. So, that takes a lot of dedication, takes a lot of self-belief, takes a lot of motivation to just stick to your guns and do one thing for 20 years and see the result at the end of the 20 years. Yeah, so that's a really cool motivational person for me. And also someone else that I would like to sit down and talk to is Quentin Tarantino.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, his movies are pretty cool. Yeah, the
Yes,
way he writes his scripts and the way he directs his movies, I like that.
I definitely appreciate the scripts and the dialogues, in the movies. They're very entertaining, very funny, and his movies seem like books. You know, like there's different chapters within the movie itself,
Yeah.
and the flow of it with the script is just, yeah, it's really interesting. So what would you ask him?
Uh, how did you
What
come
would
up
you
with the
talk about?
conversation? How did you come up with the conversation that happened to Pulp Fiction? What triggered that whole back and forth for half an hour?
Royale with cheese.
Yeah, Royale with cheese and the foot massage and all of that. So yeah, that
Okay, that's cool.
these two
So
people.
Quentin
Yeah.
Tarantino and Jeff Bezos. Okay.
Yes.
And so talking about Jeff Bezos and his success over the past few decades, what would you think is the most important invention in the past 20 years?
Well, it would have to be the internet. It would have to be the internet because it
I,
changed
I
everything.
wanted to I kind of hoped that you wouldn't say that. That's why I said 20 years. Let's just assume the internet came in 25 years ago.
I see.
The World Wide Web, like sure, it was like the dot-com bubble was in 2000, but excluding the internet, what do you think as
The
the
touch screen.
which one?
Touch screen.
Touch screen.
Yeah, touch
Okay.
screen because it allowed phones to have a user interface that you could do anything on. So
Yeah.
there's no more plastic keyboard that you have to interact with for the purpose of having a keyboard. Like
Yeah.
when you have a touch screen, you can touch anywhere on the screen and it will do a million different things depending on what is in front of you. So that
And it's enabled a lot of innovation too, right?
for sure, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of games, a lot of apps, a lot of different apps actually, not just games. And then you also see digital arts now. People are creating things on their own iPads, their own iPhones.
Yeah.
It's definitely something. And I think Sony Ericsson had a few touch screens way before iPhone came out, but they weren't
But
that
the
good.
stylus, yeah, they had the stylus and it wasn't very accurate. It was like a mesh kind of
Yeah. It was
thing.
I think it was one of them was P990, and yeah, the Sony Ericsson P990. You had to really press on the screen so that the thing can open. Like you had to be kind of aggressive with it, like to do this so that the app opens up.
Yeah,
It
and it
wasn't
always had that flexible membrane on top of the screen, so when you pressed it, you actually felt it flexing.
yeah, that too. Yeah, until the iPhone came out, then it was really seamless, right?
Yeah.
They just kept getting better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, touchscreen, cool.
So, yeah.
And what about the future excites you when it comes to whatever it is, right? Technological advancements or any other sort of thing?
Just basically where we're going from here. I mean, where we are right now is the most advanced technology available to us right now. And where we're going from here, I feel like technology is going to move from physical objects a lot towards something that we can't really touch, but we can interact with a lot more. So that excited to see what that has to offer. Not excited. I mean, it's kind of terrifying as well.
Well, that's the thing that I wanted to put a positive twist to it to have some gleam of hope for the future. But what you said, right? Like it's exciting, but it's also like what's going to happen, especially with like the microchips and let's say the Neuralink that Elon Musk is creating. Right now, it's for patients, obviously, with let's say dementia. But eventually, when it becomes available to the general public, what's that going to look like? What's going to happen? I'm sure it can help a lot. It's interesting. Obviously, it has a lot of downsides or potential downsides as well. But yeah, it's exciting to be able to communicate with someone without even talking to them, for example.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So like let's call it Neuralink for now. Once that's implemented into 20 people, it's not just communications anymore. You can know about each other's thoughts. You can know about each other's feelings without even looking at the person.
That is, I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing.
I mean, it's the future, so let's be excited about it. The least we could do.
Yeah. But imagine if you could hear everyone's thoughts, man. Like that's gonna be something,
That's gonna be a lot of noise.
A lot of noise.
A lot of noise.
Okay, and what about you? Do you have any questions for me?
Yes, two questions. So going back to your questions, what is your current ikigai?
That's a good question. My current ikigai would be to develop very good relationships. So being able to, at this point in my life, create some relationships that are going to mean something to me, even in the long run, not just, people that I party with or people that I only spend my good times with. I want to develop relationships with people where they're there for my good times, but then they're also there when things are ugly, things are messy, things like that. So basically creating meaningful relationships.
So these are not just professional relationships or friendships. These are just people that you can have around yourself that you can call friends, basically, that
Yeah.
happen to be your coworkers, happen to be your neighbor, your buddies, whatever else, right?
Yeah, 100%. Anyone who, basically our energies, match with each other, because like you said, it can be at work. At work I have some friends that I can, be myself with. Anyone that I can be myself with, and I'm comfortable being that and doing the things and saying the things that I usually say, um, then yeah, I think that those are good. Now, obviously, granted that they also need to challenge me and I need to challenge them. Obviously we don't only want people who are always just listening and saying, yeah, you're right, just affirming what we say. So, I mean, that's part of the package of the meaningful relationship. Why you smiling, man?
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
So that's my current ikigai.
That's good, man. That's good. That's a very good ikigai to have.
Thank
I think this is not just a current ikigai for you. This has been one of your ikigai since I got to know you a few years back, and I don't think it's going to stop being your ikigai for a while,
you.
forever. Yeah.
That's a good point. That's a good
Yeah.
point. You don't suddenly stop. You're like, all right, now I'm not looking for any meaningful
No
relationships.
more people. That's it.
just trash people from now. No more. I've hit my capacity for meaningful relationships.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's a good ikigai. Also, what excites you about the future? Future of anything, by the way, not just.
What excites me about the future?
Mhm.
That's okay. That's an interesting question because I asked it. So what excites me about the future? One of the things that excites me about the future is the potential that education can have. So I'll
Mhm.
say two things. One of them is that the potential that education can have, because early childhood education is very important, and it's at those stages where you start really forming and developing a character, even at an age where you don't necessarily know a lot about the real world, but
Mhm.
you're still being formed. So in your family, in your school, how your parents relationships are, the things that you learn in school and the way that you're taught it and the content that you're taught. So I think that people are starting to become more aware of how important that stage of a child's life is, and how we can actually teach them and what we can teach them so that they can be adults who are able to problem solve, who are able to think critically, and also be able to look at the world not just from a lens of, what's in it for me, but thinking about the collective good, right? So
Interesting.
because that way the world can be a much better place. And I think the foundation is education. It's not necessarily curing the problem that adults have, but preventing those problems right from an early stage. So that's one thing that excites me. And then the second thing is the use of psychedelics in treating patients, and that the research and development that they're doing in uh, you know, understanding the effects that psychedelics can have on the minds of, different kinds of people with different problems, anxiety, PTSD, depression, etc. So really looking forward to, knowing where that's gonna go.
Interesting. Good
Yeah,
answers.
yeah, man. So I wanna thank you again for hopping on. It's been a nice
Thanks for
conversation.
hosting this.
Yeah, of course, and really interesting, points that you mentioned, back and forth. Appreciate it, and hope you're enjoying Montreal, man.
Yeah, man. Hope to see you soon.
All right, bro.
All
Take
right.
care.
Take care. See ya.